Welcome, folks. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started because we've got a jam-packed agenda today. Greetings, and thank you so much for joining us for today's deep dive into the power of email to drive learner engagement, to drive program awareness and growth. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with my friends Jake and Mark, who will be diving into both the strategies and the very specific tactics that have been proven to drive credential acceptance and shares well above what we would expect to see without a concerted effort around email. I'll be your MC during today's lightning session, during which we'll first hear from Jake Ford about why Accredible and issuers of credentials everywhere saw an opportunity in email, what the new platform capabilities look like, and how they've been designed to specifically drive engagement, shares, and program referrals. Then shortly after that, we'll turn it over to Mark, who's worked with several issuers that have driven really outstanding results by leveraging those email campaigns capabilities. He identified 3 of the most successful individual emails sent by those early adopters, and he's going to detail exactly what made them successful, how they contributed to metrics like program referrals, and how each of you can harness those insights to drive similar outcomes. So without any further ado, Jake, take it away.
Well, thanks, Laura. My name's Jake. I was the product manager involved with delivering email campaigns, and I wanted to share with you some of the reasons why this even came on our radar, and we felt like this was such an impactful thing to bring to market. So it's very common that we would get asked for changes to some of the emails that we already send out in the system. People are like, you send a reminder after 1 week. Can you make that 2 weeks instead? We realized that the existing email tools didn't have a ton of flexibility, and that was something that we really wanted to change. And the more that we dug into this problem, we also found that we had customers who wanted to send different variations of an email, A and B. They also wanted to contact people who haven't shared yet and send them targeted messaging. We realized that there's so much that people want to use emails for to engage with their learners that we couldn't support with just 3 or 4 different standard default templates. So we wanted to build a system from the ground up for emails that's focused on learner engagement. We want to give you those tools to say, this is the audience that I want to reach. I want to reach them with a very targeted message at the right time, depending on what they've done with their credential. It's really focused on learner engagement from the ground up. And why is that important? I think at this point, we've all been around credentialing for a while, and I think we've really come to realize how impactful your credentials that you issue can become an organic channel for you for acquisition. The more credentials that you issue, the more of them that engaged and shared and spread your brand positively over things like LinkedIn shares, the more referral traffic you drive in, and those people become new people who take your course and get a new credential, and so on and so on. The cycle keeps continuing. The more that we can give you tools to help engage those people, to give them more reasons to share, target them at the right time, the more impactful that whole cycle is going to be. So this tool really helps you target any of these segments. I think even if you're more focused on like membership, being able to target people before their credentials expiring, you want them to renew, that's a game changer as well that we just could not support with the old emails. So that was the reason why we made email campaigns. And I think we've already seen some really amazing results historically and from the beta. And Mark is going to go over these in particular, but I'll give you some examples of like how we would actually build this in the product, not just the messaging, but the practical, like, here is how you build a campaign that does X, Y, Z. So I think just across the board, we're all very encouraged by what we've seen. We had professional services working with customers directly, trying to do these targeted emails to specific audiences. And now we have a tool that lets you do that automatically in the product. So very excited about that. I'm going to move over now inside the product and show you what that looks like. So email campaigns is a new screen. It's in the email section of your account, provided you are a Connect or a Growth plan. Campaigns, you can start them from this button over here, Create Campaign. And just the very first example, one that we found to be particularly effective is reaching out to anybody who hasn't shared their credential after 2 weeks is a really good way to convert more people into sharing, because you catch people maybe who haven't engaged with the credential already, and it's possibly a reminder for people to come back and share. So let's call this one 2-week share reminder. Our goal for this campaign is credential engagement. And this doesn't do a whole lot changing the goal here, but it does help us understand the things that you care about. It does help us maybe bundle some campaigns together for better analytics and understanding. So we've got our engagement campaign. We're going to build a 2-week share reminder. Now, the important thing about the email campaigns is the flexibility that we didn't have before. We're trying to introduce with the way that you combine these 3 different parts of, I guess, your recipe. Like, these are the main ingredients. You have the audience. Who do you want to send your email to? You have the trigger. What is the timing? And what is the thing that happens in the system that tells us to send the email? And then we have the template. You can choose the specific template that you want to send out at the right time. So for us, we want to do anybody where the credential engagement is not shared on LinkedIn. So we're specifically targeting anybody who has not shared on LinkedIn. And we could get more specific if we wanted. We could say where the credential has been viewed, but not shared on LinkedIn. And we'd be trying to encourage people to come back. I think just generally we want to catch people. We want to cast a wider net with this one. But we could get very specific by adding more filters. And now for the trigger, we said that this was a 2-week reminder email. So 2 weeks after the credential has been published, the system's going to go and check. And anybody who still hasn't shared to LinkedIn, that's who's going to get the email. And now with our template, I'm going to go and select through, I've got a 2-week engagement reminder email template that I set up earlier. That's pretty much it. Save and activate. And now this thing is going to be running in the background. My analytics are going to tell me how many times this email has been triggered and sent, opened and clicked. And it's going to go to everybody who hasn't shared 2 weeks after the credentials published. It took me like a minute and a half to set up. And we can set up many of these things. I think target those people for, the 2-week share reminder, 2-day share reminder. You could do multiple different reminders. You could segment those reminders based on have they opened, have they shared. You can reach very specific audiences. You could create, 5 or 6 different campaigns that are very specific here to really try and optimize your engagement. I think that's a great use case. We've seen a lot of positive results from that. Even just adding 1 or 2 emails has a really big impact, makes it way more likely that your users go on to share their credentials after they open it. Another use case, though, and I think this is one of the really exciting ones. I know Mark is going to talk about it. If this also lets you reach back out to people and say, hey, I know you took course A. I also think that you could be interested in course B and C that are related. Or maybe it's a course stream, or you're starting to use Pathways or one of our other features. You say, you've done level 1, 2, and 3. We'd really love you to come back and take level 4 and 5. You can send that email if that person has finished, level 1. So here's an example template. Mark will show you a much better example, but one I made for the demo, it's just like, hey, here are some newly launched courses that we've made that you could come back and take. And another example that I've heard from issuers is, hey, thanks so much for sharing. We know you're an engaged learner. Here is a discount code to come back and take another course with us, 10% off your next course, because we know that you're highly engaged and you're going to be sharing to your network when you finish courses. I think that's a great way to keep bringing people back. So this other example here, I think, is a little bit more focused on marketing. Here are courses that you could take. We want to reach out to people maybe 1 month after they finish the course, and we're going to send them this additional notice of, we've made more courses. So how would we do that? Let's call it, our goal here is marketing new courses, increase signups for related courses. So my audience, I want everybody. My trigger is going to be 1 month this time. I want a longer time, 1 month after my credentials have been published. And then I have new courses available, that template I was just showing. Save and activate. It's that easy. A lot of the legwork goes into choosing your messaging and optimizing. But I think, yeah, we've just set up another campaign now that's intended to help boost, people coming back, help a little bit with like cross-sell or upsell for our other courses that are related to ones that have been taken. One other example I'll leave you with, if you are that kind of membership use case, you've got people who have credentials that expire. They've got to come back every 2 years. They've got to renew. You can build those renewal messages into the system very easily. If we take a look at this one that I made earlier, we've got like a 30, 60, 90 days. You could set these out, 6 months prior, whatever makes sense for you. You could have multiple reminders. All we're doing in that case is we're going to look at our trigger, and I've set this one to 90 days before the credential is set to expire. And that uses just the expiry date that's already baked in with the credential. So tons of flexibility here. Those are 3 very different use cases, I think, that are all supported with the same tools for the email campaign builder. You can have, if you're a growth customer, you can have as many of these active as you want. For Connect, I think even with 10, you can still pick and choose, even just on this demo covering 3 use cases, I haven't bottomed out at 10 campaigns. So I think you can get very specific. You can really focus on a lot of these at once. And then one last thing to leave you with, I think when internally we've worked directly with customers to test out some of this stuff, we've had really good examples of kind of A/B testing. I think this tool makes that so much easier. If you are the person at your organization who's responsible for this kind of optimization and like, is our user engagement going up? I think it makes it very easy. You can make 2 different versions of a template and say, well, this is our campaign for 2-week reminder. We know how effective it is normally, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to make an edit to it, and I want to test out template A versus template B. So let's make this edit. So I can do certificate delivery A, and I can send that for a while, and I can see what my engagement rate looks like, and then I can change it. I could do delivery B. That would be one way to kind of do some A/B testing and see if I can do that optimization. And the other thing might be, we try out different campaign variations and say, we want to try for a while targeting people who have opened but have not shared. Maybe we can reach them and get them coming back. Maybe we want to add a new campaign that's people who have not opened and try specific messaging with them, and just trying to almost A/B test different segments. So I think so much flexibility here for you to really delve into if you're that optimization person. And we're learning as well, but I think Mark's going to give some great examples of stuff that we have already learned where we can start to provide that guidance for you. So yeah, thank you all for joining. I'm so excited about the feature. I think it gives you so many possibilities with the email contact, but I am going to hand it back over to Mark to give you some really cool practical examples you can implement right away.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, really excited, especially for our associations and memberships on that 30, 60, 90. Huge flexibility there. But hi, everyone. For those of you who have not met me yet, my name is Mark Viola. I am an account manager here at Accredible. Definitely seeing some familiar names here in the chat on the registration page. So good to see you guys again, but really happy and excited to be here about this new release. Email campaigns is definitely an item that I've been monitoring for a while with our product team. It's consistently come up in conversations with some of our customers over the past few years. When I saw that we were going to implement this functionality, I couldn't really contain myself. So excuse me for being excited over how this is going to impact everybody on a daily basis. I think it's one of the most powerful tools we have here. Most importantly, we're going to save time, which I think everybody wants to do, and also increase engagement by utilizing the tool. And Jake and I, we can stand up here and talk all day about how this is going to totally change the game for you, and that you should just simply believe us. And some of you may believe us, right? Some of you may have that confidence in us and our word, but we feel it's important to kind of highlight actual stats and actual case studies of customers who've seen some pretty incredible results. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is centered around how you can make some relatively tiny and small changes within the platform that are going to produce impactful outcomes. And so I think it'd be great to get started here. Jake's got it up on the screen. George Washington University. Oh, sorry, could you go back one slide? George Washington University gave us a little quote here from Tom. He actually had some feedback on the campaign feature. So he said, increasing credential open, download, and share rates among our learners is a top priority for us. I would assume that most people in the chat, most people here attending this webinar have these same goals. However, sending these one-off emails and manually reminding people is extremely time-consuming. I would agree. Accredible's email campaigns has eliminated that pain point entirely, and we're excited to see how it impacts our learners and our program over time. I think Tom's hit the nail on the head here, right? It's a huge pain point for our customers to have to manually filter the credentialing page, find the data that matters to them, and then either send them a generic email that they simply can't customize themselves, or they would have had to export that data, mail merge it outside of Accredible. With email campaigns, you have the ability now to automate, to set up triggers, to let the system work for you with targeted and effective templates in a more organized fashion. All right, let's take a look at some actual use cases. On the next screen here, you can see we have an email sent by an online learning college. Now, their aim was to help learners secure employment opportunities, advance their careers. In order to encourage these earners to share, the college ended up adding a powerful statistic to the email campaign. You can see it there. It says, "Did you know 6 people get hired on LinkedIn every minute?" Now that is an extremely engaging and eye-opening fact that, should encourage earners to get their credentials on LinkedIn as soon as possible, right? They're looking to gain employment. They're looking to get hired. What better way to engage that user than with a statistic like that? And so as a result, you can see on the right-hand side here on the screen, the college saw phenomenal metrics with increased shares and increased referrals. I just think this is an awesome example of knowing your audience, knowing what's important to them, and then drawing their interest into the template with a stat that's going to really get them excited. The college also leveraged email campaigns. Jake talked about this originally around how do we upsell? How do we get them to take relevant courses? I talk to customers every day, and it's like, how do I find repeat customers? How do I improve course completion rates? I think this is a perfect example. Let's take, for instance, someone took a course in an engineering pathway, and they would receive an email that gives them their credential. But then 1 week later, we send them another email that says, "Hey, because you took X course, did you know that we have these other courses in the catalog that you can add to your hiring portfolio or add to your resume?" That type of strategy you can see here with this college has had a significant impact on their revenue. They secured new learners as repeat customers. They've already taken the course. We know that there's interest there. How can we get them to sign up for other programs? At the end of the day, the campaign from Accredible allowed the college to send the right email to the right person at the right time. Perfect. Next email came from a certification organization for financial advisors. The organization realized that its advisors wanted to be discovered by investors and high net worth individuals for job opportunities. And so they initiated a campaign. They were targeting those advisors who received that certification maybe, let's say, a week ago, but they haven't shared it yet. Now, that organization's goal in this example was to just extend their reach on LinkedIn. And so what they did was, similar to the college, they used a compelling statistic that stated a significant number of investors begin their search for a financial advisor online. 52% of them start with LinkedIn. Now, if I'm a financial advisor and I was looking to earn business or find clients, and you told me that 52% of investors look for advisors online, what do you think is the first thing I should do as an advisor? Get that credential on LinkedIn. So that stat was motivating for the advisors. It encouraged them to share their credential on LinkedIn. And as a result, you can see here on the screen, this issuer witnessed a significant 40% increase in monthly shares. Lastly, last example that we have here highlights how, again, we talked about it, the smallest changes to a template can sometimes have the biggest impact. This company, in this example, made a slight tweak to their structure. They used the campaign tool. If an earner had not shared their credential 7 days after they received it, they would send them another email. But they did a little bit of A/B testing. They moved the call to action button a little bit higher. You can see here on the screen, the View My Certificate call to action button is in the middle of the credential as opposed to at the bottom. Just by making a small structural change like this to the content layout, the company saw an increase of 55% in monthly shares. Now, this shows you that you can use campaigns to A/B test. I think our professional services team does a great job with testing to ensure that you guys are utilizing the right strategy for your organization. You're more than welcome to do this yourself as well. We actually encourage it on the customer success side of the house. Every industry is different. Every use case is different. I think having the ability to try different campaigns with different structures allows you to see what works best for you and your organization. A lot of our customers often ask me, like, what verbiage should I write in my templates to increase X? And hopefully some of these examples that I've gone over, you can see it's really going to vary depending on what is important to your learners. All right, I'm going to pass it back to Laura to close this out. Hopefully we had some questions come in that either Jake or myself can answer. It was great chatting with you all. Really looking forward to seeing all the incredible results you're going to see with this tool.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jake, for the overview. It was a really helpful, detailed look at what email messages, what calls to action are working for some of the issuers who are early adopters of our campaigns functionality. Mark, Jake, so you went over a couple of examples, Mark, about campaigns that have worked in order to bump up our share percentage, bump up referrals from that increased brand awareness of the program and the issuer. What kinds of messages specifically work in getting students to share their credentials?
I could take that one if you'd like, Jake.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, great question. I think it ties back to like what I was talking about in some of those examples that we reviewed. The bottom line is what's important to your learners. What's something that's going to compel them to get their credential out on these different social media channels. Whatever you identify that is for your organization, we need to get that in your template. Use statistics like the examples that we reviewed today. Use data, short and sweet items that's going to catch their eye in passing. We get hundreds and hundreds of emails in our inbox. I probably have 500 that I have not deleted out of there. So we need to find a way to engage these users, get those statistics out there. Let's engage them so that they can be encouraged to share.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. And here's another question for either of you. How long after you issue a certificate do you recommend emailing recipients about accepting or sharing it?
Yeah, that's a very tough question. It's definitely going to vary. By the way, if you're watching this webinar and you have access to a customer success manager, I would highly encourage you to have these types of conversations with us. We get very personal and strategic to help determine, what's the best outcome for your organization. And part of our job is to strategize with you around those goals. So that's just my plug for our CS team. Obviously, I may be a little biased there, but to answer the question, we have some customers who are extremely focused and mindful that they don't want to bombard their users with emails. And then we have some customers that simply don't care. They want to get as many links out there as possible for as many opportunities that they can to get some referral clicks. And so I would say generally it's a 7-day time frame in terms of you've issued your credential. After 7 days, target them with a specific item. If they haven't opened the credential, maybe you want to resend it with a different template. If they've opened it but they haven't shared it, maybe you want to utilize some sharing tactics in that custom template. But it's really going to depend on your taste as an organization and your users, I would say, is the best way to answer that one.
A little bit of learning here that we found in the beta testing for this feature was that we've got that 7-day reminder, not 7 weeks. That one, let's say if your base open rate, if we send no reminders, is at like 50%, and then we send that 1-week reminder, and then we get another 2% of opens. We found that if we send the two-week reminder, we also get another 2% on top. And if you send a 2-day reminder before the 2-week reminder, like you also got 2%. So I would be really interested to see how far you can take it. I think incrementally, the general rule is if you send more email reminders, you get more opens. I don't know where that falls off. I think you can do it earlier than a week. I think you can do it later than a week. Like Mark said, it'll be really down to, try it out and see what the results are. But I think in general, what I've seen from customers is that if you send more reminders, they will have more incremental impact.
Yeah, I think you could do A/B testing, and then right in the product itself, it's going to give you the analytics that tells you, hey, this one was more successful than this strategy. Maybe that's the best for your organization.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next one here, we have time for a couple more questions. Is there email content available that we can use to get started with our first campaign?
I think Mark, being the customer success person, has a good answer for this, but I will just tease on the product side. We are really looking at ways to help get content into your account. So you're starting, from 60 instead of starting from 0.
Yeah, I think we have those templates that are already kind of in the product as it stands in terms of like reminder emails and other items like that. So you can generally use those as a starting point. but not a bad idea to maybe provide some sort of strategy. And I think, again, align with your CS rep and talk through those strategies specifically.
Great. Next one here, does Accredible email campaigns tool replace my email marketing software like MailChimp?
That's a good question. Sorry, Mark, if you got a good answer, you take it.
Go ahead.
When we were doing the research for this feature, we found out that very, very few of our customers are using an email feature like MailChimp. So I think there's two things here. If you are already using MailChimp, typically what you're doing with that feature is there's more of like a newsletter, ongoing marketing type content, and that's a great fit for that. Email campaigns in the feature is going to be tied specifically to things that people do with your credentials. You're not going to be able to go to MailChimp and say, I want to send this email to people who have not shared on LinkedIn after 2 weeks. Like that is a specific targeting that we let you do in Accredible. Maybe in the long run, that triggers something we can integrate and push out to another software that you're using. But I would say that the separation of concerns is, again, most of our customers are not using a MailChimp or software, but if you are, that's fantastic for sending marketing type messages. And inside of Accredible, it's more like any message that's triggered based on a specific audience or a specific event happening.
Great.
So you could certainly use both productively.
Perfect. Thanks, Jake. Sorry about that. Lastly, wrap us up here. Question from Joshua here. In the US, the CAN-SPAM Act has requirements for differentiating commercial marketing content versus transactional marketing content, or transactional content, excuse me. Marketing content requires permission to email them. Which would you consider these follow-up emails to be?
Yeah, so kind of related here. We checked with our legal team. Basically, our understanding of it and our approach to it is there's a set timeline. We don't let you create emails to your recipients indefinitely. This is something that's got to be tied back to a credential event. This is not like I can say, I want to send all of my recipients that I've ever had 5 years ago. I want to put them on like a newsletter and send them a message every time. So, no, it's got to be tied back to an event. It's got a time horizon of a year. You can, interject those topical messages of you've taken A, it's related to B and C. Why don't you be like, here's a resend thing, here's like a re-enrollment code or a re-enrollment offer. Those things like may push a little bit on marketing, but they've still got to be tied back to a credential. The feature doesn't behave like a newsletter. It doesn't behave like traditional marketing emails. So we feel that we're in a safe place here, or at least like I'm relaying the opinion of legal as best as I understand them. I hope that that's a good answer for you. I think, yeah, the fact that it's tied back to credential events fundamentally, it's tied back to that transactional email basis.
That's great. Perfect. Well, that concludes the time that we have together today. Thank you everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, you will receive a link to the recording of this session via email within the next 1 to 2 days. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thanks, everyone.